Unless otherwise indicated, all the following scripture quotations are taken from the Holy Bible, New Living Translation, with copyright by Tyndale Foundation, used by permission of Tyndale House Publishers, all rights reserved.
You've already said D is just like Nick. Saying she's calling you a this boy that he's a starts calling him Nick. There should be a word like especially like the word that's our Nick. He's a and then starts saying allowed to use the word Nick. The word see word Nick and they couldn't say else Nick.
Hi, I'm Pawel. Welcome back to my channel. Hey, you know what? How you doing? Today, I decided to paint my nails for like the first time ever. And I was just thinking to myself, you know what? Sometimes we actually just don't take care of ourselves. So I hope that you did something good for yourself today. I hope that you did it. I did a really crappy job and I'm still busy with it. So you can see like the one hand is one color and the other one is still the first coat. But it's whatever. Anyway, thank you for joining me. Today we are going to take a look at the Joe Rogan experience. I'm not sure this is a experience I want to have, but here we go anyway.
There's a video that's out that's a compilation of me saying the N-word. It's a video that's made of clips taken out of context of me of 12 years of conversations on my podcast, and it's all smushed together, and it looks fucking horrible.
Okie dokie. So Joe Rogan essentially just admitted that he's been saying the N-word for 12 years, more or less. He says it's taken out of context, but arguably there is no such thing as a good context for using the N-word. And there's a very specific reason for that. Because the N-word, right, is not a title that this group of people bestowed upon themselves. And so the people of color communities, right, reclaiming their identity and choosing what they want to be called is actually like a positive thing for them to try and say, we are taking this now, we are repossessing what was meant to be an insult, because that's what the intention was, right? And we are using it for us in our community to use as a symbol to lift each other up. So there is no context in which a person who is part of a particular race that gave another race an insulting name can use the N-word. At least that's my opinion on it.
Even to me. Now, I know that to most people, there is no context where a white person is ever allowed to say that word, never mind publicly on a podcast. And I agree with that now. I haven't said it in years, but for a long time, when I would bring that word up, like if it would come up in conversation, instead of saying the N-word, I would just say the word. I thought as long as it was in context, people would understand what I was doing.
Okay, so I appreciate that his mentality has changed and that he's admitting that he now realizes that those actions were wrong, but justifying it still doesn't make it right, even if things are different now, or if your belief system about the whole situation has changed. Don't justify your actions, like just own up to it, you know, like accept the responsibility and don't try and like give it a different name or try and make people understand where you came from, because it doesn't matter. You just did the wrong thing.
Like that context was part of the clip we were talking about Red Fox, how Red Fox said that word on television in the 1970s and how times have changed so much since then. Or about how Richard Pryor used it as one of the titles of one of his albums. Or I was quoting a Lenny Bruce bit, or I was quoting a Paul Mooney bit, or I was talking about how Quentin Tarantino used it repeatedly in Pulp Fiction, or I was talking about how a Netflix executive, ironically, used it because he was trying to compare it to another offensive word, and he said it out loud, and they fired him.
Okay, I think that people who are light-skinned, if I may be politically correct, need to understand like what is an insult when it comes to racism, right? Because I think that they are so scared of being called racist that they want to say, okay, I said a bad thing, but I'm not a bad person. It doesn't make me a racist. And it's super, super problematic. But the thing is, like, just imagine if people in mass, right, just started calling light-skinned people colonists everywhere. Like, everybody just started like, you guys are colonists, every one of you are colonists, your ancestors are colonists. And yeah, essentially it's the truth. But it's the purpose intended for it is to be an insult and to be something derogatory and to take a person's worth, right, and diminish it so completely that that person is only the one thing. It doesn't acknowledge that this person is an entire person. And I think that people that are light-skinned need to understand that it's not about the word. It's not about the word. It's about why the word was created. And it's also about what the word was used for. And it's also about who gets to use that word when referring to these people, you know?
Not calling anybody or just saying the word out loud. I was also talking about how there's not another word like it in the entire English language, because it's a word where only one group of people is allowed to use it, and they can use it in so many different ways.
What do you mean? There's no other word like it in the English language, and that only this group of people are allowed to use it? Yeah, there is. Like, take a look at the non-binary community. Many of the people in the community go by they, them. And that's because they choose that this is what they want to be known by, and this is the word that they want to use. And they have the right to say that, because America is all about freedom of expression, so you have to respect that freedom of expression. But when it comes to something that is derogatory, right? Like, for example, someone wants to use the swear word mother effer, right? If someone wants to refer to a large group of people by that term, they didn't approve of it, they don't like it, but you want to use it because of freedom of speech. I don't think that's appropriate. But I just think that it's about exercising kindness towards people of color or towards human beings in general. It's about exercising kindness, because racism is really just bullying. It's just bullying with a different name. So if you are calling someone something that they don't like to be called, you're just bullying them. Just stop it. There are other words in the English language that you can use. There are other terms that you can use. Why do you need this one? You don't need this word. It's not like everything hinges on you being able to use this word to describe a certain group of people. There's other things to use. It's fine. You don't have to stress so much about it. Damn.
Like, if a white person says that word, it's racist and toxic. But a black person can use it, and it could be a punchline. It could be a term of endearment. It could be lyrics to a rap song. It could be a positive affirmation. It's a very unusual word, but it's not my word to use.
Like I said before, it's about reclaiming their heritage. It's about taking something that was meant to be a form of bullying, meant to be a form of oppression, and turning it into something that is positive, something that is part of the community in a healthier way. People of color are aware of the pain attached to that word. They don't forget it every time they say that word, but they decided bravely to reclaim the word for themselves so that they can use it and mean it in a positive light, meaning connection with other people that come from their community. It's not that hard to understand. It really isn't. And, you know, like, for example, back in the day, the word queen was often used to refer to people who are gay, right? And these days, you hear people talk about people that are gay, especially if they have like feminine qualities, and then they say slay queen and those kind of things. So that term was repurposed essentially to uplift someone rather than to bring them down. And that's essentially what's happening here with the N-word. The term is being repurposed to lift people up rather than bring them down. And I don't think that's a bad thing at all. I don't think it's confusing, because I think we need to give people the space to determine who they are and what they want to be called and how they want to express themselves, because I think that's maturity.
I'm well aware of that now, but for years I used it in that manner. I never used it to be racist, because I'm not racist. But whenever you're in a situation where you have to say, I'm not racist, you fucked up. And I clearly have fucked up.
It's kind of nice when you can own up without actually owning up to something. It's really nice when you have the privilege of saying, yes, I am, but actually, no, I'm not really. Here's the problem with saying, I said something racist and I did something racist, but that doesn't make me racist. The problem is racism is not just like a physical construct. It's not just a concept. Racism is part of a mentality. So for you to say something, right, that was attached to a group of people negatively, and this group of people said they don't want you to say that, and you still said it and like did it so repeatedly, right? That's really racism. Like I said, it's bullying. It's just bullying with a different name. And so you can't say that there's context for it. You can't say that I'm sorry for saying it, but it doesn't make me racist, because yes, it does make you racist. And I wholeheartedly believe that there's actually so much power in admitting that you are racist and that you have racist tendencies, right? The reason that I believe that there's a lot of power in this is because, like what the people of color community has done with the N-word, they've repurposed the term, right? So they've attached it to themselves by giving it a positive connotation. And now I'm not saying that you can say I'm racist, yay. What I'm saying is that you can say I am racist, I have done racist things, because once you own up to that is when you can actually start to change the mindset that's attached to the racism. So if you say I did a racist thing, but that doesn't make me a racist, what you're actually doing is you're denying that that mentality is actually part of your character now. And so essentially you're still going to be thinking in a racist way and doing racist things, because it's still part of who you are. You've just apologized for the 1 or 2 things, 6 things, whatever it is that you did in the past. You've not actually changed that mindset. And so I think that when people who have said and done racist things stand up and say, yeah, I was racist, is when they've actually reclaimed the title of being a racist, and they've made an effort towards change and understanding. And I think that there's a clear distinction between someone who has done this and someone who's just apologizing because they're aware that the whole internet is blowing up about stuff. I'm not saying that this is what Joe Rogan has done, but what I am saying is that we need to understand that it is so powerful when we admit, yeah, I'm a racist, I was racist, and I want to be better and I want to change. He says that he did something wrong, yeah, but to what extent are you admitting that you are responsible for doing something wrong? To what extent are you admitting that you hurt someone deliberately because you already knew? You cannot say that you did not know that what you said was taboo. You cannot say that what you said, you cannot say that what you said and what you did was the right thing, because you already knew that, yet you did it anyway. So that being said, you have to just accept the full responsibility, because then you can really start the movement towards change and towards appreciating people as people and not just as the color of their skin and attributing their worth to that.
And that's my intention to express myself in this video, to say there's nothing I can do to take that back. I wish I could. Obviously, that's not possible. I do hope that, if anything, that this can be a teachable moment. Because I never thought it would ever be taken out of context and put in a video like that. And now that it is, holy shit, it looks bad.
Stop with the context thing, man. I get where you're trying to come from. I know you're afraid to outright say that you are racist or that you have racist tendencies. I get it. I know you're afraid of it. I know you're afraid of the backlash. But you have to consider what is more important, considering other people human beings despite their skin color, or having to face the internet backlash by saying, yeah, I'm racist. Because the point here is that these conversations need to happen where we can talk about what's going on, why you develop that mentality, so that you can reform. Because I'm a believer in reform in all different types of areas, right? And call me crazy, but I think that people who admit that they are racist are way less likely to be racist or homophobic or any of those other things like xenophobic as well, because they have admitted and understood with the full gravity and the full intent of what they have done. And so what we have here in this part 1 of Joe Rogan's apology is that he said, yeah, I did something wrong, but there was a context to doing something wrong. If you take something like, you see the problem here is that speech is so nuanced, right? That we can create a good context for like the thing that was said, and we can provide a nice convenient backstory for something that was said. If this actually translated into a physical action, for example, right? Let's say that Joe Rogan hit a person of color because that person was a different color. There's no context in which that would be okay. But essentially he just did this verbally. So now you can say, okay, there's context and let's all forgive and forget about it. Meanwhile, you still have those racist tendencies. You'll still say and do things, or you'll be on your guard against saying or doing things racist so that you don't actually get cancelled. But you haven't actually dealt with the real issue. You haven't actually admitted to yourself that what you did was sincerely wrong and that you definitely need to change that mindset. And this is the problem that I have with this. I did something wrong, but this context kind of thought process.
And it's part of also me doing this podcast for thousands of hours, thousands of episodes over 12 years. I said a lot of fucking stupid shit.
Okay, so that was the end of part 1, and since this video is going on a lot longer than I thought, I think that I should do part 2 in another video. So let me know what you think about this whole issue surrounding racism. Do you think that comics should be allowed to use racist words? Do you think people of color should be allowed to use the N-word in their community, or should it be something that's open to everyone? I do appreciate your thoughts on the issue because I've said everything that I can say about this right now. But I think that we need to actually just start talking about why we are so afraid to say I am racist and would rather be like a closeted racist. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, stay tuned for your scripture of the day. Your scripture of the day comes from Jeremiah 29 verse 11, which says, "For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope." Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you being here. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to my channel. And yeah, y'all, we need to actually talk about these issues of racism, because if we talk about it, we start a conversation, we can avoid it in the future and actually really build something beautiful and precious and make sure that everyone feels involved in our society and in our different communities, because everyone deserves to be acknowledged and everyone deserves to have a seat at the table no matter what they look like. So thanks so much for being here, and I hope that you have a phenomenal start to your weekend, because you absolutely deserve it. Bye.
그대 잠깐 눈을 붙일 때 나는 마음에